Every game begins the same way.
It's time to dive into the deep waters of Birdland. I am your host, and this is Orioles Fan Central, your channel for the fastest, most in-depth, and truthful analysis of our beloved Baltimore Orioles. First and foremost, if you live and breathe the passion for the O's, if the O chant during the national anthem is an act of pride and identity for you, I need you to do one thing right now. Subscribe to the channel. It's simple, it's quick, and by doing so, you ensure you get immediate access to the sharpest, fastest, and most in-depth analysis on the Orioles, with a unique and true perspective from someone who lives the team's day-to-day life intensely. My mission, as your guide in Birdland, is to bring you insider information and objective analyses that impact the franchise's future. Now, let's get to the point, because the news coming out of the front office is urgent and strategic. The 2025 season was, to put it mildly, a colossal disappointment. The high expectations we had after 2 consecutive playoff appearances were pulverized by a slow start, and crucially, by a pitching staff decimated by injuries. The grim 75-87 record, which landed us in last place in the American League East Division, is a direct reflection of this fragility. The front office's immediate priorities are hiring a new manager and a general manager, which in itself points to a profound restructuring. However, and I emphasize however, the bullpen upgrade, which was and still is our biggest wound, must be treated as the utmost priority. It is in this context of urgency that a big name emerges on the free agent market: Robert Suarez, the closer for the San Diego Padres. The situation is clear and painful. Our all-star closer, Felix Bautista, is not expected to play in 2026. The surgery to repair a torn rotator cuff and labrum in his right shoulder is serious, and recovery takes time. The hole left by the mountain is gigantic. That's why the mention of Suarez as a dark horse candidate to be signed by the O's, made by Kerry Miller of Bleacher Report, is so relevant. Miller suggests it's more likely that Baltimore will opt for a one-year solution, perhaps a Kenley Jansen. But the idea of going all in on Suarez is on the table. And this bet is not irrational, judging by the numbers. Suarez, who is scheduled to become a free agent, has been one of the league's most dominant closers since his debut in 2022. At 34, he is coming off a spectacular 2025 season with the Padres. In a career-high 70 games, he posted a 4.6 record, a 2.97 ERA, a career-best 70 strikeouts, and a National League best 45 saves. We cannot forget that he was named to his second consecutive All-Star game. Suarez's arrival would fill the elite gap left by Bautista, offering a quality and stability bridge until our starting closer returns. The impact of adding such a reliable arm late in games is the difference between wins and losses in such a tight division. The objectivity of the numbers speaks louder than any speculation, and Suarez's numbers scream dominance. The question for the new leadership of the Birds is whether they will have the courage and strategic vision to invest heavily in a top player, even while prioritizing filling the manager and GM vacancies. The Orioles need a jolt of quality and a clear sign to the fans that the mediocrity of 2025 will not be the keynote for 2026. Suarez's signing would be that signal, a move that puts the O's back in the conversation of serious contenders. The need to reinforce the Orioles' pitching staff is undeniable, a primary obligation that the front office cannot ignore. The injuries that plagued the pitching staff derailed what was supposed to be a promising season. With Bautista projected to miss the entire next season, adding an elite closer like Suarez would be a significant and immediate improvement for the bullpen. This is not just a stopgap signing. It is a strategic move to maintain competitiveness while the core of our team develops and the injured players recover. The Birds' window of competitiveness is open, and we cannot afford to waste an entire year waiting for Bautista's return. However, as with any major negotiation, there is a risk factor that needs to be analyzed with the seriousness of a John Heyman. Robert Suarez will turn 35 in March. Paying a robust, multi-year contract to a closer in that age range is undeniably a risk. The velocity and dominance of power pitchers tend to decline after this age, and a long-term investment could become a burden on the payroll. That's why Miller suggests the option of a Kenley Jansen, who might accept a high-value one-year deal, offering immediate stability without compromising the future payroll. However, Suarez's recent performance cannot be dismissed. His numbers in recent seasons do not lie. He has maintained a level of excellence that places him among the best closers in the National League. The challenge for the Orioles is to balance the urgent need for a top-tier closer with financial prudence and a long-term vision. Choosing Suarez would imply trusting that his physical and technical form will remain at the top for at least 2 or 3 more seasons. This type of bet requires a meticulous analysis of his medical history and his stuff, pitch quality, in depth. A 3-year contract, for example, would ensure bullpen stability until Bautista returns and allow the team's new management time to define the development strategy for other internal closers. Looking at the overall picture, the race for Suarez will be fierce. Top closers are always highly sought after, and the demand for an arm with 45 saves and an ERA below 3.0 will be high. If the O's really want to sign him, they will need to be aggressive and fast in the market, which, ironically, may be hindered by the absence of a permanent GM and manager. It's a vicious circle situation. The team needs a closer to start winning again, but the decision-making structure is incomplete. My analysis is, if the interim front office has the autonomy to close a deal of this magnitude, they should do it. Suarez's quality is unquestionable, and he may be exactly the closer the Orioles need to help them return to the postseason in 2026. We cannot wait. The American League East is a meat grinder, and the competition never stops. Let's be direct. Signing an all-star caliber closer like Robert Suarez transcends simply replacing Felix Bautista. It is an injection of morale, an assurance that, as we enter the 9th inning, victory is virtually guaranteed. On a team urgently seeking recovery after a frustrating season, the ability to close out games is the oxygen that sustains the confidence of the entire roster. From the starting rotation, who can pitch more relaxed knowing that the elite bullpen will finish the job, to the offense, which feels motivated to earn small leads. This is the real intangible impact that an arm like Suarez's brings to Birdland. The O's have a young and talented core. The franchise's construction philosophy has been based on developing internal players and making surgical acquisitions. Signing Suarez would fit perfectly into the category of a high-impact surgical acquisition. He would be the missing link between the setup and the win, turning bullpen games and close contests into triumphs. In 2025, many games were lost in the late innings, a direct reflection of the lack of a dominant closer after the injuries. This cost the Orioles, and the bill was last place in the division. The difference between last and first place is often just a dozen more wins, and a 40-save closer can deliver exactly that margin. In addition to on-field performance, Suarez's arrival would send a powerful message to the market and to the players themselves. To the market, it would signal that the Orioles are back and willing to spend to win now. This could facilitate attracting other quality free agents for the starting rotation, which also needs reinforcements. For the internal players, it would be confirmation that the front office is investing in the window of competitiveness. That confidence is a catalyst for high performance. We must remember that the American League East schedule is brutal. Every season, we face opponents like the Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Rays, who are always reinforcing. We cannot afford to hesitate. Therefore, the debate about Suarez's age needs to be put into perspective. It is a risk, yes, but it is a calculated risk that can yield immediate and essential rewards. It is the best strategy for the team's current situation. The front office needs to act with the clarity and audacity that the situation demands. It's not just about filling a roster spot, but about adding a game changer, a player who transforms the game's dynamic. With a new GM and manager on the way, signing a big name like Suarez would be a welcome gift and a solid foundation for the team's reconstruction in 2026. The birds need to fly high again, and strength in the bullpen is what will keep that flight steady and secure. The focus now must be, how can we close this deal? Robert Suarez. We have reached the crucial point of our analysis. The 2025 season serves as an undeniable warning. Without depth and stability in the bullpen, the promise of a young and talented team falls apart. The urgency for an elite closer is real and tangible. The name Robert Suarez emerges as a market opportunity that the Orioles cannot afford to ignore. Despite the inherent risk of the player's age, 35 in March, his 45 saves and sub-3.0 ERA in 2025 make him the ideal candidate to fill the void left by the absence of Felix Bautista. It is the move that would send the message that the Birds are determined to return to the postseason in 2026. The front office, even in transition, needs to exercise the courage for a high-impact move. In summary, the main news is this: All-star closer Robert Suarez of the San Diego Padres is named as a dark horse candidate to be signed by the Baltimore Orioles in free agency, filling the gap left by the injured Felix Bautista, who is expected to miss the entire 2026 season. Suarez, who turns 35 in March, is coming off a 45-save year and has been one of the league's most dominant closers since 2022. The signing is viewed as an urgent necessity to reinforce the O's bullpen. Now, the ball is in your court, Birdland. I want to hear your voice. With the urgent need for an elite closer and Bautista's absence, what do you think of the team's latest decisions? Should the front office bet on Robert Suarez, even with the age risk and the need to pay a robust contract? Or do you prefer a one-year solution, like Kenley Jansen, or a gamble on a younger arm? What would be the best strategy for the O's in the upcoming games or trade windows? Investing heavily in a closer like Suarez, or using those funds to strengthen the starting rotation and seek a lower-cost closer? Share your professional and passionate analysis in the comments. If you agree that this is the fastest, most serious, and most in-depth analysis you can find on the Orioles, like this video, comment your opinion to join our discussion, and subscribe to the channel to continue following exclusive analyses and daily updates on our Birds. Together, let's live every moment of our Baltimore Orioles intensely. Let's go, Birdland!